We live in a world where pills have become synonymous with health, a world where we reach for a prescription at the first sign of discomfort, placing our trust in the hands of giant pharmaceutical corporations. These companies, known collectively as Big Pharma, hold immense power, shaping the landscape of modern medicine. They are responsible for groundbreaking discoveries, for developing life-saving medications, and for offering hope to millions suffering from debilitating diseases. But what if this seemingly benevolent industry harbors a dark secret? The 20th century witnessed a revolution in medicine. Antibiotics emerged as powerful weapons against bacterial infections, vaccines eradicated deadly diseases, and complex surgeries became routine procedures. Big Pharma played a pivotal role in this progress, investing billions in research and development, pushing the boundaries of scientific understanding. Yet, this progress came at a price. The cost of healthcare skyrocketed, leaving many struggling to afford essential medications. In the shadows of this medical marvel, whispers of a disturbing truth began to circulate. What if, some dared to ask, Big Pharma wasn't interested in cures? What if their business model relied on a constant stream of patients dependent on their products rather than a world free from disease? This suspicion, once relegated to the fringes of conspiracy theories, has slowly gained traction. Could it be that cures for some of humanity's most devastating illnesses exist, locked away in the vaults of powerful corporations? This is the question that will guide our exploration. Join us as we delve into the history of Big Pharma, examining its rise to power and the intricate financial web it has woven. We will investigate the claims of suppressed cures, exploring cases where groundbreaking treatments were mysteriously silenced. Our journey will take us through the corridors of power, uncovering the influence Big Pharma wields over governments, regulatory bodies, and even the medical profession itself. Prepare to question everything you thought you knew about the pharmaceutical industry and the true cost of our health. To truly understand the behemoth that Big Pharma has become, we must journey back to its humble beginnings. In the 19th century, long before the advent of rigorous scientific testing and government regulation, the world of medicine was a wild west of sorts. Traveling salesmen hawked dubious elixirs and miracle cures, promising to alleviate every ailment known to man. These concoctions, often laced with addictive substances like opium and cocaine, were marketed with outrageous claims and captivating testimonials. However, amidst this landscape of questionable remedies, the seeds of a powerful industry were being sown. Forward-thinking entrepreneurs, recognizing the potential profits to be made from a society obsessed with health and longevity, began establishing companies dedicated to the manufacture and distribution of these patent medicines. These early pioneers, with names like Parke-Davis and Squibb, laid the groundwork for the pharmaceutical giants that would dominate the 20th century. These early pharmaceutical companies, while lacking the scientific rigor of their modern counterparts, were masters of marketing and distribution. They understood the power of branding, packaging their products in eye-catching bottles, and bestowing them with memorable names. They cultivated relationships with doctors, offering incentives and free samples in exchange for prescribing their products to patients. Through a combination of shrewd business practices and aggressive marketing, these early players began to shape the public's perception of medicine and lay the foundation for an industry driven by profit as much as by the pursuit of healing. The late 19th century saw the emergence of formal scientific research within the pharmaceutical industry. Companies began investing in laboratories and hiring chemists to develop new drugs and refine existing ones. This shift towards scientific legitimacy was driven in part by growing public awareness of the dangers of unregulated medications and by the desire to gain a competitive edge in a rapidly growing market. This marked a turning point, as the industry began to transition from snake oil salesmen to purveyors of science-backed treatments, setting the stage for the pharmaceutical revolution that was to come. The 20th century ushered in a new era for Big Pharma, marked by groundbreaking scientific discoveries that would transform the world's understanding of medicine. The accidental discovery of penicillin by Alexander Fleming in 1928 revolutionized the treatment of bacterial infections. paving the way for the development of a vast array of life-saving antibiotics. This marked a turning point in human history, as diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries could now be effectively treated with these powerful new drugs. The development and mass production of penicillin during World War II solidified Big Pharma's position as a force to be reckoned with. No longer mere peddlers of tonics and remedies, pharmaceutical companies were now at the forefront of medical innovation, developing groundbreaking treatments that had the potential to save millions of lives. The success of penicillin ushered in a golden age of drug discovery as companies poured resources into research and development, eager to replicate this success with new wonder drugs. This period saw the emergence of the blockbuster drug, medications that generated over $1 billion in annual sales. Drugs like Valium, a tranquilizer that became a cultural phenomenon in the 1960s, and Tagamet, a treatment for ulcers, became household names, generating vast profits for their manufacturers. The pursuit of these blockbuster drugs, with their promise of enormous financial returns, became a driving force within the industry, shaping research priorities and influencing the types of treatments that were developed and brought to market. The rise of blockbuster drugs had a profound impact on the pharmaceutical industry. Companies became increasingly focused on developing treatments for chronic conditions that required long-term medication, as these represented a more sustainable source of revenue than cures for acute illnesses. This shift in focus, while undoubtedly leading to the development of important medications for conditions like heart disease and diabetes, also raised concerns about whether the industry was truly committed to finding cures rather than simply managing symptoms for profit. As Big Pharma's influence grew, so too did its mastery of marketing and its ability to shape public perception of health and disease. Recognizing the power of mass media, pharmaceutical companies invested heavily in advertising, bombarding consumers with carefully crafted messages designed to promote their products and create a demand for their drugs. Television commercials, magazine spreads, and even billboards became saturated with images of smiling people enjoying life to the fullest. Thanks to the latest pharmaceutical breakthroughs, direct-to-consumer advertising, once unheard of in the medical field, became commonplace. Catchy jingles and heartwarming stories replaced complex scientific explanations as pharmaceutical companies sought to establish an emotional connection with potential patients. This aggressive marketing, while undoubtedly effective in raising awareness of certain conditions and treatments, also raised concerns about the medicalization of everyday life and the potential for overdiagnosis and overtreatment. The pharmaceutical industry's marketing efforts extended far beyond traditional advertising channels. Companies cultivated relationships with medical professionals, providing generous funding for conferences, research grants, and even lavish gifts in exchange for prescribing their products. Medical journals, often reliant on pharmaceutical advertising revenue, published articles favorable to the industry's interests. Patient advocacy groups, many of which were heavily funded by Big Pharma, lobbied for greater access to specific medications, often without disclosing their financial ties to the industry. This intricate web of influence, carefully woven over decades, enabled Big Pharma to shape not only public perception of disease, but also the very way medicine was practiced. Doctors, bombarded with marketing materials and influenced by industry-funded research, often found themselves prescribing the latest and most expensive medications, even when cheaper and equally effective alternatives were available. Patients, swayed by compelling advertising and encouraged by their physicians, readily embraced the latest pharmaceutical solutions, often without fully understanding the potential risks and side effects. Section 4. The influence, game, lobbying, legislation, and the shaping of healthcare policies. The pharmaceutical industry's influence extended far beyond the realm of marketing and advertising, reaching into the very heart of government and shaping healthcare policies to serve its interests. Recognizing the power of legislation to impact their bottom line, Big Pharma became a major player in the world of lobbying, spending billions of dollars each year to influence lawmakers and sway legislation in their favor. Through a combination of direct contributions to political campaigns, funding of think tanks and advocacy groups, and the employment of armies of lobbyists, the pharmaceutical industry gained unprecedented access to policymakers. They successfully lobbied for legislation that extended patent protections, delaying the entry of cheaper generic drugs into the market and ensuring continued profits for their blockbuster medications. They influenced the regulatory approval process for new drugs, streamlining the path to market for their products while often delaying or denying approval for competitors' medications. One of the most striking examples of Big Pharma's political influence was its role in shaping the debate surrounding healthcare reform in the United States. As the debate over affordable healthcare raged on, pharmaceutical companies poured millions into lobbying efforts to ensure that any legislation passed would be favorable to their interests. They successfully lobbied against provisions that would have allowed the government to negotiate drug prices, arguing that such measures would stifle innovation and limit patient access to life-saving medications. The pharmaceutical industry's influence on healthcare policy had far-reaching consequences, shaping the way medicine was practiced and accessed by millions of people. Their lobbying efforts often resulted in higher drug prices, limited access to affordable alternatives, and a healthcare system that seemed to prioritize the profits of pharmaceutical companies over the well-being of patients. This influence, often exerted behind closed doors and shrouded in secrecy, raised concerns about transparency and accountability within the industry and its impact on the health and well-being of the public. As the 20th century drew to a close, Big Pharma's reach extended far beyond the borders of the United States, transforming the industry into a truly global powerhouse. Driven by the lure of untapped markets and the promise of even greater profits, pharmaceutical companies set their sights on the developing world, aggressively expanding their operations into countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. This globalization of the pharmaceutical industry brought with it both opportunities and challenges. On the one hand, it provided access to life-saving medications for millions of people who had previously been underserved by healthcare systems. The introduction of vaccines, antibiotics, and other essential medicines had a profound impact on global health, contributing to a significant increase in life expectancy and a dramatic reduction in deaths from preventable diseases. However, this expansion was not without its critics. Concerns were raised about the industry's marketing practices in developing countries, where regulations were often lax and consumers were more susceptible to misleading advertising. There were allegations of price gouging, with pharmaceutical companies charging exorbitant prices for life-saving medications in countries with limited healthcare budgets. Additionally, the focus on blockbuster drugs designed for Western markets often came at the expense of research and development into treatments for diseases that disproportionately affected the developing world, such as malaria, tuberculosis, and HIV/AIDS. The globalization of Big Pharma highlighted the complex ethical and economic dilemmas inherent in providing healthcare on a global scale. It raised questions about the industry's responsibility to ensure equitable access to life-saving medications, the impact of its marketing practices on vulnerable populations, and the need for greater transparency and accountability in its dealings with governments and healthcare providers around the world. The name Stanislaw Burzynski is synonymous with controversy in the world of cancer treatment. This Polish-born physician, who immigrated to the United States in the 1970s, developed a treatment for cancer based on substances he called antineoplastons. These naturally occurring peptides found in human blood and urine were believed by Burzynski to have anti-cancer properties. Burzynski's treatment, which involved administering high doses of antineoplastons intravenously, was met with skepticism from the medical community. His research was criticized for its lack of rigor, and his claims of success were dismissed as anecdotal evidence. The FDA initially refused to approve Burzynski's treatment for clinical trials, citing safety concerns and a lack of evidence for its effectiveness. Despite these setbacks, Burzynski continued to treat patients at his clinic in Texas, often charging them exorbitant fees for his unproven therapy. He gained a loyal following of patients who believed in his treatment and who were willing to exhaust their savings and endure grueling side effects in the hope of a cure. Burzynski's case became a rallying cry for advocates of alternative medicine who saw him as a victim of persecution by the medical establishment. The effectiveness of anti-neoplaston therapy remains unproven. While some small studies have shown promising results, these studies have been criticized for their methodological flaws. Larger, more rigorous clinical trials are needed to determine whether anti-neoplastons have any real anti-cancer activity. The story of Stanislaw Burzynski highlights the ethical dilemmas surrounding the use of unproven treatments and the challenges of balancing patient autonomy with the need to protect the public from potentially harmful therapies. As Section 1, a sea of profits, navigating the pharmaceutical money machine. To truly grasp the motivations behind Big Pharma, we must first dive into the depths of its financial power. The pharmaceutical industry is a money-making behemoth, generating hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue each year. Its profits dwarf those of many other industries, fueled by a constant demand for medications and a pricing structure that often seems to defy logic. Unlike other industries where competition typically drives down prices, the pharmaceutical landscape operates under a different set of rules. Patent protections, granted for new drugs, give pharmaceutical companies a temporary monopoly on their products, allowing them to charge premium prices without fear of competition from generic alternatives. This system, while intended to incentivize innovation, also creates an environment where profits often take precedence over patient affordability. The financial success of Big Pharma is fueled by a complex web of factors, including government subsidies for research and development, favorable tax breaks, and a regulatory environment that some argue is too lenient. These factors, combined with aggressive marketing tactics and a constant stream of new and often expensive medications, have created an industry that is both highly profitable and highly controversial. Understanding the financial incentives at play is crucial to unraveling the mysteries surrounding Big Pharma. Is it possible that cures for certain diseases are being suppressed to protect these vast profits? While there is no easy answer to this question, exploring the financial dynamics of the industry provides valuable context for understanding the decisions made by pharmaceutical companies and the potential conflicts of interest that may arise. One of the most common arguments made by proponents of the suppressed cure theory is that pharmaceutical companies are incentivized to develop treatments that manage symptoms rather than cures. A cure, after all, represents a one-time sale, while a chronic condition requiring ongoing medication translates into a steady stream of revenue for years to come. This argument, while simplistic, holds a certain logic. Imagine for a moment a world where a cure for diabetes was discovered. While such a discovery would be hailed as a medical triumph, it would also spell financial disaster for the pharmaceutical companies that manufacture insulin and other diabetes medications. Their profits would plummet as millions of patients were suddenly cured of their condition. Of course, the pharmaceutical industry is not a monolithic entity, and not all companies would necessarily prioritize profits over patient well-being. However, the financial incentives are undeniable. In a system driven by shareholder value and quarterly earnings reports, it is easy to see how the pursuit of a cure, while ethically sound, might be viewed as a risky business proposition. This is not to say that pharmaceutical companies are actively suppressing cures. However, it does raise questions about research priorities and whether the current system incentivizes the development of treatments that address the root causes of disease or simply manage symptoms for profit. Big Pharma's financial might extends far beyond its research and development budgets. The industry is a major player in the world of lobbying, spending billions of dollars each year to influence lawmakers and shape healthcare policies in its favor. This influence is exerted through a variety of channels, including direct contributions to political campaigns, funding of think tanks and advocacy groups, and the employment of armies of lobbyists who work tirelessly to advance the industry's agenda. One of the most effective ways Big Pharma exerts its influence is through the shaping of public opinion. The industry is a master of marketing, spending billions more on advertising than it does on research and development. These marketing efforts are designed to raise awareness of certain conditions, promote the latest medications, and influence the way both doctors and patients think about health and disease. Through carefully crafted marketing campaigns, Big Pharma can create demand for its products, even in cases where cheaper and equally effective alternatives exist. They can influence prescribing patterns by providing doctors with biased information and incentives to prescribe their medications. They can even shape public perception of entire disease categories, turning once rare conditions into widespread health concerns requiring pharmaceutical intervention. This ability to influence public opinion and shape healthcare policies gives Big Pharma an enormous amount of power. It raises concerns about transparency and accountability within the industry and the potential for conflicts of interest to arise between profits and patient well-being. The relationship between Big Pharma and government regulatory agencies is often characterized by a phenomenon known as the revolving door. This term refers to the common practice of individuals moving back and forth between positions in government and positions within the industries they once regulated. In the context of the pharmaceutical industry, this means that former FDA officials often go on to work for pharmaceutical companies, while former industry executives sometimes find themselves in positions of power within regulatory agencies. This revolving door raises concerns about conflicts of interest and the potential for undue influence. For example, a former FDA official who helped to approve a particular drug while working for the government may be more likely to approve similar drugs when working for a pharmaceutical company. Conversely, a former industry executive who joins a regulatory agency may be more sympathetic to the concerns of the industry they once worked for. While the revolving door does not necessarily imply wrongdoing, it does create an environment where conflicts of interest can flourish. It raises questions about the independence of regulatory agencies and their ability to act in the best interests of the public when those interests conflict with the financial interests of the pharmaceutical industry. The revolving door is just one example of the close ties that exist between Big Pharma and the government. These close ties, while often presented as a form of collaboration and partnership, can also create opportunities for undue influence and raise concerns about the balance of power between industry and those tasked with regulating it. Patents are a cornerstone of the pharmaceutical industry. They provide inventors with exclusive rights to their inventions for a limited period, allowing them to recoup their research and development costs and profit from their discoveries. In the case of pharmaceuticals, patents give companies a temporary monopoly on the sale of new drugs, allowing them to charge premium prices without fear of competition from generic alternatives. While patents play an important role in fostering innovation, they also contribute to the high cost of medications. Pharmaceutical companies often employ aggressive strategies to extend the life of their patents, delaying the entry of cheaper generic drugs into the market and maximizing their profits. These strategies, known as evergreening, can involve making minor modifications to existing drugs, filing for new patents on different formulations or uses of the same drug, or engaging in legal battles to challenge the validity of competing patents. The patent system, while intended to reward innovation, can sometimes have the opposite effect. By creating a system where companies are incentivized to extend their monopolies rather than develop truly novel treatments, the patent system may actually stifle innovation and limit the availability of affordable medications. The debate over patents highlights the complex balance between incentivizing innovation and ensuring access to affordable healthcare. It raises questions about whether the current system adequately serves the needs of both patients and the pharmaceutical industry. In recent years, the dominance of Big Pharma has been challenged by the rise of generic drugs. Generic drugs are essentially identical copies of brand-name drugs, but they are sold at a fraction of the cost. This is because generic drug manufacturers do not have to invest in the costly research and development that goes into creating a new drug. The availability of generic drugs has had a significant impact on the pharmaceutical industry. As patents on blockbuster drugs expire, generic competition drives down prices, cutting into the profits of brand-name manufacturers. This has led some pharmaceutical companies to focus on developing new drugs for rare diseases or conditions that are not well served by existing treatments, as these niche markets offer greater potential for profit. The rise of generic drugs has been a boon to consumers, providing them with access to affordable medications. However, it has also created challenges for the pharmaceutical industry, forcing companies to adapt to a changing market and find new ways to remain profitable. The debate over generic drugs highlights the tension between affordability and innovation. While generic drugs provide a much-needed solution to the problem of high drug prices, some argue that they also discourage innovation by reducing the financial incentives for developing new drugs. Finding a balance between these competing interests is crucial to ensuring both access to affordable medications and continued progress in medical research. The pharmaceutical industry stands at a crossroads. Faced with growing public scrutiny, increasing competition, and the rising costs of research and development, the industry must find a way to balance its pursuit of profits with its responsibility to patients. The challenges are significant. The industry's reputation has been tarnished by scandals, lawsuits, and accusations of price gouging. The public is increasingly skeptical of its motives and its claims, and the cost of developing new drugs continues to skyrocket, making it more difficult than ever to bring new treatments to market. Despite these challenges, there is also hope. Advances in technology are revolutionizing the way drugs are discovered and developed, potentially leading to faster, cheaper, and more effective treatments. The growing field of personalized medicine promises to tailor treatments to individual patients, improving outcomes and reducing side effects, and there is a growing recognition within the industry that it must do more to address issues of affordability and access. The future of healthcare depends on finding a sustainable path forward for the pharmaceutical industry, one that balances the need for innovation with the needs of patients. This will require a commitment to transparency, ethical conduct, and a patient-centered approach to healthcare. It will also require collaboration among stakeholders, including pharmaceutical companies, policymakers, healthcare providers, and patients themselves. Only by working together can we create a healthcare system that is both innovative and accessible to all. The profit motive, a breeding ground for suspicion. At the heart of many big pharma conspiracy theories lies a deep suspicion of the profit motive. The pharmaceutical industry, unlike many other industries, deals with matters of life and death. Its products have the power to heal, to alleviate suffering, and to extend life. However, these products are also commodities, bought and sold in a global marketplace where profits often take precedence over patient well-being. Critics argue that the profit motive creates a perverse incentive structure within the pharmaceutical industry, one where companies are rewarded for developing treatments that manage symptoms rather than cures. After all, a patient cured of their ailment is no longer a source of revenue. This line of thinking suggests that Big Pharma has a vested interest in keeping people sick, ensuring a steady stream of customers dependent on their products. The high cost of medications, particularly in countries without universal healthcare coverage, further fuels suspicions about Big Pharma's motives. For many people, affording essential medications can be a constant struggle, forcing them to make difficult choices between their health and their financial well-being. This disparity between the exorbitant profits of pharmaceutical companies and the financial burdens faced by patients creates a breeding ground for resentment and distrust. While it is important to acknowledge the legitimate concerns about the influence of profit on healthcare decisions, it is also crucial to avoid oversimplifying a complex issue. The pharmaceutical industry is not a monolithic entity, and not all companies prioritize profits over patients. Furthermore, developing new drugs is a risky and expensive endeavor, and companies need to generate revenue to fund research and development. Finding a balance between incentivizing innovation and ensuring access to affordable medications is a constant challenge. Hidden cures and medical tyranny. The narrative of control. A recurring theme in Big Pharma conspiracy theories is the notion of hidden cures. This narrative posits that cures for diseases like cancer, HIV/AIDS, and Alzheimer's already exist, but are being suppressed by the pharmaceutical industry for financial gain. This belief is often intertwined with a broader distrust of authority, particularly government agencies and the medical establishment, which are seen as complicit in this alleged cover-up. The idea of hidden cures taps into a deep-seated human desire for simple solutions to complex problems. It offers a glimmer of hope in the face of suffering and loss, suggesting that a cure is just out of reach, hidden behind a veil of corporate greed and government secrecy. This narrative can be particularly appealing to those who feel powerless in the face of illness, offering a sense of agency and control in a situation where they often feel helpless. The narrative of hidden cures often intersects with other conspiracy theories, such as those surrounding vaccines. The belief that vaccines cause autism despite overwhelming scientific evidence to the contrary is fueled by this same distrust of authority and the belief that powerful entities are withholding information from the public. This distrust can have dangerous consequences, leading to vaccine hesitancy and outbreaks of preventable diseases. The narrative of hidden cures and medical tyranny, while often based on misinformation and fear-mongering, highlights the importance of transparency and accountability within the healthcare system. It underscores the need for open communication between healthcare providers and patients, as well as a greater understanding of the scientific process and the complexities of drug development. The very notion that cures for devastating diseases might be concealed, locked away from those who desperately need them, sends a chill down the spine. It challenges our fundamental assumptions about the world, about the institutions we trust, and about the very nature of progress itself. If such a possibility were true, it would mean that countless individuals are suffering and dying needlessly, their lives cut short or diminished by diseases that could be eradicated. Imagine a world where cancer, instead of being a dreaded diagnosis, is a manageable condition, easily treated with a readily available cure. Imagine the relief, the joy, the sheer disbelief that would wash over the world as millions were freed from the grip of this devastating disease. This is the promise of a cure, a promise that, if the suppressed cure theory holds any weight, is being deliberately withheld from us. The implications of this possibility are staggering. It would mean that the scientific breakthroughs we celebrate, the medical advancements we hail as triumphs of human ingenuity, are but a fraction of what is possible. It would mean that the potential to alleviate immense suffering, to eradicate diseases that have plagued humanity for centuries, is being deliberately stifled for the sake of profit or some other, even more sinister agenda. This is a truth too difficult to bear for many, a truth that shakes the very foundations of our belief in a just and compassionate world. Yet it is a possibility that we cannot afford to ignore, a question that demands our attention and compels us to seek answers. The human cost of concealed cures, if they indeed exist, is immeasurable. It is measured in lives cut short, in families torn apart, in dreams shattered by the harsh realities of preventable suffering. It is the weight of millions of individuals denied the opportunity to live full and healthy lives, their potential extinguished by a system that prioritizes profit over human well-being. For every day that a cure remains hidden, the death toll mounts. It is a silent and insidious epidemic, robbing us of our loved ones, our friends, our colleagues, and our heroes. It is a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the urgent need to address this injustice. Beyond the lives lost, there is the immeasurable cost of potential unrealized. Think of the brilliant minds silenced, the artistic talents extinguished, the acts of kindness and compassion left undone because a cure remained just out of reach. The world is a dimmer place for their absence, robbed of their unique contributions to the tapestry of human experience. The human cost of concealed cures is not just an abstract concept, it is a lived reality for millions around the world. It is the story of parents watching helplessly as their children succumb to treatable diseases, of individuals spending their life savings on experimental treatments, clinging to a sliver of hope. It is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable adversity. But it is also a searing indictment of a system that allows such suffering to persist. Our journey into the heart of Big Pharma has been a winding one, filled with both promising discoveries and unsettling revelations. We've explored the industry's evolution from its humble beginnings to its current status as a global powerhouse, examining the complex interplay of scientific advancement, corporate greed, and the pursuit of profit. We've delved into the murky world of suppressed cures, weighing the evidence and grappling with the implications of such a possibility. Throughout this exploration, one theme has remained constant: the need for greater transparency. The pharmaceutical industry operates in a world of shadows, its inner workings often hidden from public view. This lack of transparency breeds distrust, fuels conspiracy theories, and undermines the public's faith in the very institutions responsible for their health and well-being. The quest for transparency is not about demonizing an entire industry or dismissing the incredible contributions of the countless individuals who work tirelessly to develop life-saving medications. It is about demanding accountability, ensuring that decisions about our health are made with integrity and guided by the best interests of patients. This responsibility falls not just on the shoulders of Big Pharma, but on all stakeholders in the healthcare system. Government agencies tasked with regulating the industry, researchers committed to scientific rigor, healthcare providers entrusted with our well-being, and most importantly, patients themselves. The time for complacency is over. We can no longer afford to be passive bystanders in the conversation about our health. The stakes are too high, the potential consequences too dire. We must embrace our role as informed and engaged citizens, demanding change and holding those in power accountable for their actions. This begins with education. We must equip ourselves with the knowledge and tools necessary to navigate the complexities of the healthcare system. We must learn to critically evaluate information, to discern fact from fiction, and to advocate for our own health and the well-being of our loved ones. We must demand greater transparency from the pharmaceutical industry, pushing for open access to clinical trial data, scrutinizing marketing practices, and holding companies accountable for unethical behavior. We must support organizations that are fighting for affordable medications, advocating for policies that prioritize patient needs over corporate profits. This is not a battle that can be won by individuals acting alone. It requires a collective effort, a united front of patients, healthcare providers, and concerned citizens demanding a more just and equitable healthcare system. We must raise our voices, share our stories, and challenge the status quo. Despite the challenges we face, there is reason for hope. The growing awareness of the issues plaguing the healthcare system, coupled with the increasing demand for transparency and accountability, is creating momentum for change. New technologies are emerging that have the potential to revolutionize the way drugs are discovered and developed, making them more affordable and accessible to those who need them. The future of healthcare hinges on our collective ability to envision and create a system that prioritizes the well-being of all people, regardless of their income, background, or geographic location. A system where scientific advancement goes hand in hand with ethical conduct, where innovation is driven not just by profit, but by a genuine desire to alleviate suffering and improve human health. This is a future worth fighting for, a future where cures are celebrated, not concealed. A future where access to life-saving treatments is a right, not a privilege. A future where the healthcare system serves the needs of the many, not the profits of the few. The journey ahead may be long and arduous, but the destination is one worth striving for. Let us move forward with courage, compassion, and an unwavering commitment to creating a healthier and more just world for all.